right, so let's jump into it. Hey, Jenna.
Hey.
I'm so excited to have you on here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I feel like I've known you for years at this point. Like, when did we first connect? Because I was trying to think about it, and I was like, I don't even know. I feel like I've always known you in a way.
Yeah.
I'm like, when did I actually meet her? I don't know.
No, that's so true. I usually have a really good memory of like where I met somebody. I really don't remember how we initially connected.
No, I think it might have been, I did a virtual Wine About Business thing like forever ago and was like getting,
No.
Well, never mind. She
I
had
mean,
better things to do.
I feel like we met the first time when I went to your round table? Is that what it was called?
Was that when we first officially met?
I feel like that's when we met in person.
Okay.
Maybe
we must have like DM'd then. But I felt like by the time like the round table happened, I felt like I'd like known you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I was definitely following along with your content. I feel like you post such great like educational content. And I can tell that you actually care about women, which is cool. Like with the being in the medical field and like share. And that's so important to me. So I want to get into your background and what brought you to do what you're doing now and helping women through what you know now. So tell me how you got started.
Yeah, so I started in obviously conventional medicine. So I'm a nurse practitioner. So, I was a nurse in the ICU, and then I went back to school, got my master's, and I worked in the clinic in pulmonology, sleep medicine. Then I did men's health, internal medicine, all sorts of things. And the medical system is just a really broken system. If you actually care about people, it's really hard to stay in it because you get, all your appointments are overbooked. You get, 5 minutes with people, and that's not enough time to like really get into people's stories and figure out, what's like getting to the root of what's going on with them.
Yeah.
And like I remember one of the doctors I worked with, I was always so behind on appointments because I would spend time with my patients.
Because you gave a shit.
Yeah, like trying to figure out, it's like, okay, you're not taking your medication. Why? Can you not afford it? Let's like get you some patient assistance.
Nobody asked
Can you
that.
not? Yeah.
Nobody cares to know that. Yeah.
Exactly. Everyone just writes you off as you're non-compliant. We don't care about what happens to you. If something happens to you, it's your own fault. And I don't really believe that. And so I'd always be behind, work through my lunch, stay late charting because I would spend the time. And then one of the doctors I worked with said to me one day, like, I don't get what takes you so long with your patients. Like, it takes 2 seconds to write a refill. What are you doing in there? And I was like,
what are you? Wow.
It's like, okay, I don't like, obviously I'm not in the right place. So I, tried a bunch of different environments. I tried switching from, big medical system to private. And
was it all basically the same?
It's all
like,
the same.
Is it all the same bullshit that you had to deal with? Okay.
It's all the same. No matter, if I was specialized, if I was just internal medicine, generalized practice. And it was so horrifying to me because I had worked my whole life to like get to this goal, and went through so many years of school. And it's like, I finally have my name on the door, have the white coat. Like I did, I did it. And like, I'm so miserable. Like I was like crying on my way to work, like every day.
That's
but
sad.
I got so burnt out that I couldn't even see how burnt out I was until I was forced to make a change. So fast forward to when COVID happened, and my private practice got bought out by a big, a big corporation that you see a lot around here. I won't share the name.
She'll share it when we take a break.
Camera.
I'll find out.
So we got bought out, and I was like, okay, this is, whatever. And they were basically like, I mean, I still don't know what happened. It was the most confusing experience of my life, but they were like, basically, we're going to be cutting your pay. You're not going to get PTO anymore. We're taking away like all your benefits, and essentially like you need us more than we need you, and you're just going to like need to sign the contract. And I was
so what were they like trying to switch you to like 1099 kind of thing? Like,
yeah, they're trying to, it's, you can have different types of medicine where it's basically you're just paid on the clients that on the patients that you see, but you're not like, you don't get any benefits outside of that. So if you're not working and generating income, then you're not paid. And the way those models work is they try to anticipate how many clients you're going to see and how much revenue you're going to make for the business. And then if you don't make that much revenue, you actually owe them money for working. And so I was like, okay, this is really, I don't really know if I love this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like had met with a lawyer to go over my contract, which like I recommend really for
Good for
anybody.
you,
People,
because I
don't
feel like
read
so
their
many people
contracts.
don't, and then they get,
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Apple probably has my soul and all my children at this point. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right? Like you need your phone, you need your iPhone. I'm not
Right,
I'm not
right.
desperate enough to
Terms
switch to
and
Android, but
conditions, yeah. Just always check yes.
but with that kind of a
employment
position, I feel like
contracts.
you could have gotten so screwed.
Oh yeah.
And then what with like non-competes?
Yes.
And then you're stuck in that situation, and then you can't go anywhere
Yes.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I got a contracts lawyer, which I've done with every position I've ever had. We looked it over. She was like, I really wouldn't recommend you take this job. And so I asked the company, like, hey, can I just meet with you? I just like have a few questions about the contract. I want to see if maybe there's a few things we could kind of like discuss. And they were like, no, take it or leave it. Like, and then they told my employer that I was like antagonistic and aggressive and all these things, and started painting me as this like crazy person.
But if you were a man,
oh yeah,
you would have
Yeah.
been so assertive and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
confident. Look at this man, like
know.
fighting for what he deserves.
and
How
you should have
sexy.
seen my emails to him. It was like, hey, hate to be a bother. Because this was like before my villain era. So I'm like, like, hate to be a bother. If you
I
have,
love
like,
that you just
one
said that.
second-
I love that you just
I'm a
said
different
that.
person now, but I'm like, if you have like 1 second and you wouldn't mind if I could just maybe ask like one little question about like something in my and like it's okay. And they were like, basically F off, no. And I was like, okay. And they're like, and you're too aggressive, you're antagonistic.
Oh my God.
They started telling my employer I was like crazy. Because I was
So they're like
overly aggressive.
gaslighting you.
Yes. And so then my employer is like, okay, well, basically, you're crazy. And I thought they were totally gonna have my back. They didn't. So, okay. Anyways, that was like a terrible situation. But at the time it was early in the COVID days, and a lot of people were furloughing, and I was supporting us because my husband was in grad school at that time. So I was carrying our benefits, supporting us. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to get another job. And I was like, what do I do? I've always been like the most responsible person in the room, right? Like I've always had like a plan and a job. And I'm like I think I'm just going to have to sign on with them, because I like looked to see if there was like other jobs, and no one was really hiring because everything was really up in the air. And I just, every time I went to sign my contract, I would just like start shaking and crying and like almost get sick. And I like physically could not sign it. And I was like,
This is not meant to be. Yeah.
I was like, I'm quitting. And so I quit. I didn't have a plan. I was like, what? I'm panicking. Like, what are we going to do? But it was the best decision I ever made for myself. It was the first time in my life that I was ever like, okay, what do I actually want to do with my life? Because before then it was just like, what's the most like responsible decision? It was never like, what do I, like, I can't say I was like super passionate about like pulmonology, but it just kind of like fell into that job, and I had great benefits and whatever. And so then in my 3 months of like fun employment, I started like getting really back into my own health and my own hormonal stuff that had gone on, and started learning about this. And then kind of one thing led to another, and this other healthcare provider was running this program to train healthcare providers to become health coaches in women's health. And it just kind of like all serendipitously worked out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'd never considered that this thing that I'm like personally really passionate about and love learning about is something I could do for like work and like help other women with. And it was amazing, because the more women I started talking about, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to do, every single woman I talked to was like, oh my God, thank God somebody's doing that. Like my hormones are wrecked. I have no one to talk to. I go to my GYN, they don't care. The only option
they just throw birth control at you. That's literally all they do.
That's it. And that was my own
Any
experience.
symptom you say, here's some birth control. Yeah. I'm depressed, birth control.
Yes.
I have my cramps, are birth control.
Yes. And that's the whole problem. And I was diagnosed with PCOS as a teenager, and that was the only option I was ever given, is like, you can go on birth control, and that didn't help with my symptoms at all. And they were like, well, too bad.
And then when I came back, because my birth control made me like trigger warning, like suicidal. Like I was not okay.
Yeah.
But when I went to my OB, like, hey, the birth control's okay, we're gonna give you the low estrogen, or like we're gonna give you this lighter, like a diet birth control. I'm like, I don't think this is the right like answer. And then I don't think this is like really, I don't think you're listening. And then I just completely stopped. I'm like, this is making me crazy.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, I am not somebody who's anti-birth control. Like we were talking about this a little bit before, like all these crunchy people in like the holistic, health are like, oh, birth control is literally poison and you're like killing yourself by taking birth control. I'm not anti-birth control because I think women need to have options. And some women are like, I really just want to control I don't want to have another baby. And I don't like have the time or desire to learn about something like, cycle tracking. And this is just what works for me right now. And I think that that's totally an okay option as long as you have informed consent and these are the risks, these are the benefits, these are my other options, because there's no other options ever offered. And when we say like informed consent in healthcare, that means you understand risks, benefits, and alternatives. And that discussion is never had. It's like, this is your only option and this is it. And nobody talks about the risks, the benefits. It's just like, this is it. That I can't get behind. I think women who want to use birth control, totally, if that's what works for you, do it. No shame. There's so many, it's become such a polarizing topic online where it's like I know a lot of like health coaches or healthcare practitioners in like the functional medicine space who won't even work with women on birth control because they're like, oh, that's poison. If you're on birth control, you have to get, and I don't think that's the right approach either. I think it's nuanced and there's a different approach for different people.
But it's also, and this is what I loved about, you, but then also like our conversation was that when you come at a situation with that judgment, even if you personally don't agree with birth control, like when you're already in the stance of like birth control is evil, birth control is bad. And women are so used to being put in a place of judgment and shame by providers.
Shame,
So they're going to be less likely to get help at all because if they're like, well, that's all I have right now and that's all I know. And then you feel bad about it. Like that's not really helping.
Right.
Them want to talk to you anyways.
Right.
So I love that, like, even, in our conversation, I bring things up. You're like, well, if that's what's working for you now, that's great. So how can we, make this better? Or how can we make it where it's sustainable for your lifestyle and what you want to do or what's going on in your life right now?
Yeah, I think that's the key to it. I think that, in medicine, we say birth control is your only option. And then we say a lot of people in like the functional medicine or holistic medicine or alternative medicine space say, birth control is not an option. And like there has to be this middle ground on like really all topics where we say, each person is an individual and has different things going on in there. And it honestly, like that you even have to explain that is kind of crazy because it really should just be looked at this. But these absolutes don't work for women. And shame, you're right. So many women have experienced shame, medical gaslighting, and they don't trust themselves. They don't trust their bodies. They feel betrayed by their bodies. They feel like they're always doing something wrong. They can't lose weight and they're told it's their own fault. And I think it's so unfair for women, and women deserve so much better. And we have to establish this middle ground where it's like, okay, if you're doing this thing and it works really well for you, you're working with a coach, you're in a cut right now, and this is like what works for you because there's other parts of your life and your lifestyle and that feels really good to you. That's great. And like, how can we just like maximize that or optimize that for your hormones? Not like, how can we take everything you're doing and like throw it in the trash and make you start all over when you have this whole other life outside
and you're
of
building,
your health?
and it's like, how many new habits are you having to build when you have life and you have kids happening? It's just, it's not realistic.
Exactly.
This is so liberating to talk about this because I feel like it's an anger that we all carry, and then it's like you don't realize how much rage you have about it until you're feeling like you're talking about it. You're like, oh my God, and what about this? Like, even like something I want to bring up too is like the postpartum questionnaire.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like, you want me to check a box if I'm like feeling like I'm gonna hurt myself?
It's horrible.
Yes or no? How is that not messed up?
It's so messed.
The way that they treat women after the most like, what's the word? Like traumatizing thing that can happen to your body, that can happen hormonally, that can happen emotionally and mentally, even if you have a supportive partner, let alone if you're going through it like on your own and it's like a bad situation. And then their way of caring after is like, fill out this questionnaire in a waiting room with a bunch of people where we ask you like very passive aggressively if you're feeling suicidal. Yeah. Like if I'm feeling, you think I'm going to check yes? Yeah.
And like, knowing that you're only going to like, we don't have a relationship and you're just going to like, if I am suicidal, like probably just like report me to somebody or something.
Or like, take the kid away. You don't know how they're going to deal with that information. You're only going to spend
30 seconds with me and it's not going to be something. And really the whole point of that appointment is just like, what are you going to start doing for birth control? And like, you're allowed to start having sex again. Like that's all. That's the whole point of that appointment. It's like not to say like, how are you doing as a person? Like,
I never got asked that.
How are you recovering? Like how are you how are you coping with this huge change, this identity shift? Like how is that? And obviously I've been in the conventional medicine environment, so I understand the constraints that providers are under too. So I'm realistic about that because we don't get to dictate our schedules, how much time we spend with patients. That's all dictated by insurance. And so in order to make a, profit for the company, they say we have to see however many patients, and it's hard. We don't have the time, but I do think we can do such a better job than we are doing of caring and using other care team members. Like, in my opinion, anyone who is postpartum should be referred to a pelvic floor therapist, should have options for like, this is someone you can go to for a mental health support,
Yes.
like, and
Yes.
see like telemedicine, like make it easy for people to do these things. Like, these are new moms. And that's what, like when I'm seeing people for postpartum care, I'm like, bring your baby. You don't have to like find a babysitter for like our visit. Like, have your kids there, have your baby there. Like, it's about like meeting women where they're at and like, how can we make this something that's like attainable for them so they feel supported. And like, how can we, if we don't have time in the OBGYN office to ask these questions, like what other people can we get on the care team? What other support systems can we bring in to make sure that you're as supported as can
Even
be?
a 10-minute Zoom call with someone pretending to care would have been better. And like, what does that cost you really? It's not, but I remember going in and I had bad postpartum after my first. And again, nothing against taking anything, but I was automatically prescribed antidepressants.
Yeah.
When my hormones were the worst they would ever be, and I needed to heal, I needed to recover, I needed to do things, to feel better. And I'm not against that at all. But the fact that that's just like the automatic solution is just.
Right. It's a whole like no informed consent again, no risks, benefits, and alternatives. And this is like, writing, as that doctor said to me one time, like writing a refill or writing a prescription takes 2 seconds. So that's like the quickest way to be like, okay, we're kind of like helping in some way, like whatever.
Is a lot of it the money in the drugs? Like, I don't know enough about this, but I've seen some Netflix shows.
Yeah. So
like, is it just like they want to renew like the prescription so that they get like, is that part of it? Is like the more they fill?
Yeah. We don't get compensated based on how many prescriptions we write, or we don't get any kind of, it's actually legal for us to like get money back from something we prescribe for you, whether it's a medication or
so that doesn't happen anymore?
No.
It's like Jake Gyllenhaal won't like walk in the office and like try to sell painkillers. No.
Yeah. There's a lot of laws in place that prevent that now.
So, but it's okay. So, and then it used to be more of a thing, but you don't see it as much where it's like people the doctor is making.
Right.
Okay.
People used to get kickbacks. That doesn't happen anymore. So it's not that we're like, we're encouraged to write more prescriptions, but honestly, that's all that we're taught in schools, like how to write prescription as the only treatment option. And it's the quickest way.
Do they teach doctors how to have horrible handwriting? Like, is that a class? Like how to make it illegible?
It must be. Yeah. I didn't obviously take that class.
I feel like you have good handwriting probably though.
I didn't take a class like that in P school, but I think that's part of it. It's weird. Luckily, mostly everything's electronic now.
Yeah.
So that helps. But yeah, I think that's all we really have time for in like a typical clinic visit is like to write a prescription and be like, okay, well, this will help. We don't have time to like sit and talk to people. Like, what's the root of what's going on with you? Like, do you have support at home? Do you like, how are you?
Do you think if there was that time, do you think the way that the system is now and the doctors that are out there now, for the most part, do you think that would change? Or do you think it's like now become an entire cultural problem that's so ingrained that they don't even really care enough, even if there was the time?
Yeah. And I think so many healthcare workers are so burnt out and we face so much moral injury and cumulative caretaking trauma that you do get to a place where you build up like a callus because it's like,
how could you not?
How could you not? And then survive and go home at the end of the day and have anything left of yourself,
or have to, and then have to take care. Yeah, and then have to like take care of kids. I mean, that's just set up. It's like setting people up to fail.
Yeah,
which is sad.
It is. It's sad, and there's no support for these situations. Actually, one of my friends, she was actually one of my nursing instructors in school. And now she's become a friend, and she runs an organization called Debriefing the Front Lines. And she talks about these topics of cumulative caretaking trauma, of moral injury, of, healthcare providers are very burnt out and just telling them, oh, go home, meditate, do yoga. Like that doesn't help. It's the whole system as a whole. And we're making it like, oh, it's your fault that you got burnt out, when really it's like you work in a system that it's impossible to not get burnt out in.
And you're automatically off the bat, they like overwork you and you're doing what, like 12-hour shifts?
Yeah.
Like, how is that? But I like,
Yeah.
I don't know how I would handle that. Like off the
Yeah.
bat, overnights and like the crazy schedule, like starting off, it's like you're already burnt out before you even really got into it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And then there's no support. There's no conversations about how to support yourself or,
do you think it's because it was run by men for so long?
Yes. That's why the whole world is how it is.
Can we
now.
just be honest? I have a quote that's at the root of every problem is a penis.
Yes.
And I think if we dig deep enough, that's what it really is.
I really think,
and I feel no shame saying that.
I agree with you 1,000%. Like, I practice like root cause, getting
See,
to the root cause of
I have a
things.
doctor backing me. I have medical.
It's insane. But I think that's the problem with a lot of these organizations.
Yeah.
Really our society as a whole.
Just everything is a problem because men were
Patriarchy.
going off
Yeah.
the patriarchy
Yeah.
and the horses, right?
Yeah. I know. Yeah, it all comes down to it.
But when the root of it is money and ego and power,
Yeah.
and that's ingrained in something for so many years, it's nearly impossible. And then you see, and I do, like we talked about a little bit before we started recording, but digging into the new companies that are popping up. So I want to talk about what is the focus of what you do now, and what's your priority, and like how do you work with women now, and then going into the new like wellness options that are
because your experience, we'll have to talk about that because I that was honestly intriguing to me because so my focus now is I work with really women and hormones, but I do really a root cause approach. So when we talk about root cause of hormone issues, that means that we go into things like gut dysbiosis, blood sugar imbalance, nervous system dysregulation. Like there's a lot more to it than just hormones.
You had so many questions, and I love like the process.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
To
like my
fill it out.
questionnaire. Yeah.
But I loved it
And
because
it all is so connected.
yes, but there were things that I'm like, I don't know how this means anything, but like, okay, this is cool. Like I felt very validated that like someone even put in the time to ask that many things, like that many different, and I love that. Like even just that, I was like, okay, so this is,
Yeah, I think that's a really big part of it that it gets missed a lot in medicine. It's like if you're having this one problem, like I mean that's the whole thing about taking like a root cause approach. Like if you're having a hormonal issue and then we just put you on like birth control and we don't figure out like why did that hormone issue start? Is it because you're having a lot of blood sugar dysregulation? Is it because your gut is a mess? And if we just put you on birth control, we're just silencing
You're just
the
putting
symptoms.
a Band-Aid on the
but we're not getting to like what is causing that, and that's just going to lead to other issues in the body. So I work in hormones. I went back and got a certification as a functional hormone specialist, and so I mostly do work around that, and I'm a certified health coach too. And that is a really fun line of work. Like I only work with women, like we talked. Like I never want to work with a man again. Women are so amazing.
I agree.
Yes.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. I love working with women. If I would have known that was an option from the get-go, I never would have done all that work I did all those years. And I think that it's great because so many conversations now are coming up about women and hormones. These are conversations we never had. And like on social media, for so long, I didn't want to get on social media for my business because I didn't do social media like personally beforehand.
Yeah.
And I was always like, oh, it's so stupid. But then someone reframed it for me and was like, social media is really like a platform where women have access to information that like our moms, grandmas, aunts didn't have. Like they didn't have a place they could go to and discuss things like hormones or watch a video on like, 3 tips to get your hormones rebalanced or 5 signs that you have estrogen dominance. Like some of these things are kind of cheesy, but like having access to that information and starting these conversations, I think is so, so important. And I've seen more of these companies popping up that, are offering like at-home hormone testing and that sort of thing, which I think is great. But then when I heard about your experience, I was just like flabbergasted because that's not creating a solution to the issue. That's just a money grab at this like hot topic of hormones.
Exactly. So I'll get into a little bit of a summary of my story, what happened and how I ended up having the consult with you, which I should have done in the first place. Okay. Lesson learned. But all of these companies are popping up that are kind of trying to, I think some of them have to be legit, right? Like some of them hopefully are decent, but I think they're like capitalizing off of this gap and seeing that women are like, wait a minute, maybe it's my hormones that are causing all these problems. They see they see dollar signs.
Yeah.
So I encountered a company that was all about women's wellness. They promote women's wellness through like hormone regulation, all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it because the labs, it was like $80 to do the labs. I'm like, there's a LabCorp right down the street. That was a whole other experience. That was like the fire festival of testing centers. We won't get into that, but I did the labs and I was so excited because I think so many women feel this way and then they get discouraged again because they're like so excited that someone will finally listen to all the things that they've had going on for so long. And like, I have the worst PMS. I always have. I get like really bad anxiety. I get really angry. Sometimes it's like scary. I'm just like mad at the world. And I'm like, if there's something that I can do so that this doesn't happen, because it happens whenever I'm PMSing. If there's something that can help regulate that, I want to know. If there's something imbalanced, I want to know. So I went ahead, did the labs, had the consult with the doctor, and it was like being back in a doctor's office. Felt completely dismissed. She kind of rushed through the results. And I didn't even know off the bat that you're supposed to test at a certain time, which you told me that it like matters the time in your cycle. And I track my cycle. So that would have been something so easy for me to do.
Yeah.
I would have just scheduled it during that time. And so it was like a 10-minute conversation. She's like, oh, this is low. Take zinc. I'm like, okay. Versus like with you, you're like, okay, well, the best way to get zinc is like through foods that are like higher in zinc and because of this and this and this. And she was just like, oh, take some zinc. Okay. And I'm like, well, what about this? And like, she's kind of like looking at me.
Why
like,
are you talking?
Like, why?
Just listen to what I'm
You're
telling you.
You're not the doctor, bitch. Shut the fuck up and let me get through this so that I can like go back to my life and like do yoga or I don't know what she was doing. But like she had this whole platform on Instagram and I'm like, okay, like I'm excited to talk to her.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, based on your numbers, you need testosterone. And I was like, well, kind of sounds scary. Like, I don't know if I just want to be like taking it. Like,
yeah,
I'm not
taking
trying to be
hormones.
Yeah. And she's like, someone's going to reach out to you tomorrow with like the information and like we have these supplements, whatever. All I get the next day was a bill for $400. And then they kept sending it like that it was past due. So that's when I reached out to Jenna. I was like, Jenna, help me. I did something bad. Jenna, I did something really bad and I need you to help me.
As if it was your fault though. Like such shame on them for like, I mean, that's what we're talking about. Like it would literally take them 10 seconds to like write a little thing like this is where you test and they just send that to every single person. Like this is when you test in your cycle.
Yeah.
What an oversight for a company. It's like insane.
So then at that point I'm like, okay, this is another like just cash cow.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they really cared. So then I called them out on Instagram and the founder got really upset and was like, this is so uncool of you. They blocked me and we ended up in like an email back and forth. It ended well. Like it ended okay. I was like, look, this is just business owner. This is like mano a mano here. Business owner. Like this is how I felt. I would hope that you'd appreciate this information to help and find gaps in your business because you have this platform of helping women and this is so important and so many women need this.
Yeah.
But then, so I want to go into what we worked on together and like how you help through your consultations and like what you told me and you sent me this whole protocol on like supplements that I can take where I'm not just taking hormones right off the bat, which I felt so much more comfortable with. Actually, they're in here actually. The powders that I have.
Oh, okay. I was like, hormones? Wait. Okay, we need to revisit.
This is a giant jug of testosterone. I'm trying to get my muscles growing, okay? No, but the
Ovacetol, yeah.
Ovacetol?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally F that up.
Okay.
And like the vitamin B6, like I put it in my water. I make it like a whole little like thing. It's like my little
mocktail?
routine. Yeah, a little mocktail.
We love it. We love it.
So tell me about just your thoughts on.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that every health issue requires a really individualized approach and a really multi-pronged approach where we're looking at your lifestyle, your stress, your sleeping, your food. I think just telling people, and this is where it's wrong on both sides of medicine. Like, if you see medicine as a spectrum from like Eastern to Western, so like, conventional to naturopathic, holistic medicine. I feel like on both ends of it now, it's like we just give you either in traditional medicine, allopathic, we just give you a big list of medications and we just say like, okay, like take this. And then now in like the holistic medicine space, we just give you a really big list of supplements and we just say like, okay, take this. And we forget to look at the fact that your lifestyle like plays such a huge role, and like the foods you're eating, like there's so much we can do with that besides putting somebody on 20 supplements. I do not believe in that at all. And I think that's where we're really getting it wrong.
And supplement quality.
Fatigue. Yeah, supplement quality is huge.
And I've paid more attention to it, and obviously like I knew that you know, the ones that you sent me, I'm like, okay, I trust this. But like Amazon, now
a lot of those are counterfeit. Yeah, a lot of those you don't know what you're getting. Yeah, that's why I usually recommend either getting it directly from the manufacturer, so you know, going on their direct website and ordering it, or using a database like FullScript is one I usually have my clients use, where things are quality controlled, they're stored in a certain way, they're shipped in a certain way, they're checked for purity and like making sure you're getting what you think you're getting, because a lot of things that you get even at the drugstore, they've, you know, taken these supplements apart and they test what's in them and it's not what you think you're getting at all, or they're not stored in a proper way. And things like fish oil supplements go bad really quickly if they're exposed to heat, light. So they have to be stored.
I probably have some fish oil that I need to throw out.
Yeah, it gets rancid, and then it just causes stress and inflammation in the body, actually. So you're taking all this stuff like thinking it's going to help. So yeah, that's why these things are really, really important. But I think it's important to just take like this really multi-pronged approach. And we talked in your consult about like taking zinc. So if you're just isolating, taking one nutrient, all nutrients, you know, the body is a system and things are all interconnected. So like, you know, taking a lot of zinc can throw off your copper because they're really connected. So that's why we want to, if we can, take a food first approach where we're eating foods with zinc in them that also have copper and also have these other nutrients that you need in order to absorb the nutrient the best and keep things kind of in balance. So I think that's a really important
Well, yeah, I'd gotten this zinc supplement on Amazon, and I showed it to you, and you're just like, don't take that. Like, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Like, look at what
like
I got.
I was trying to do. Yeah, I was trying
like,
to
that's
do things.
garbage.
Yeah.
But no, I love that. And like, what would have happened though, too? Like, if I just started taking testosterone, like, because but I do want to, if we're already on this topic, like, women need to know, you know, just because it's approaching, like, it's this wellness, you know, their whole thing is like more holistic. It doesn't, it still doesn't mean that it's good. Like, or just because there's a supplement online that has great reviews, doesn't mean that you're taking the right thing. Like, what could happen if like I'd started taking all this testosterone and like didn't legitimately know?
Yeah, I mean, that can throw off all your other hormones, especially if you're not being closely monitored. You're not given kind of the education on like what to look for, that things may be kind of getting out of balance. And I think that there's a time and a place for hormones, but mostly in postmenopausal women when we don't make hormones. In a cycling woman that has low hormone levels, I don't think supplementation is ever the first right step. And I don't want to say ever because, again, I think, you know, I don't like absolutes, whatever. As for some women, they're like, I just need resolution to my symptoms right now and I want to take something. That's okay. But it's more important to figure out, why are you not making enough testosterone? Or why are you not making enough progesterone? Or why are you not able to get rid of your estrogen? You know, if you're not able to get rid of your estrogen, it could be because you have an overabundance of, you know, certain gut bacteria that are holding on to too much of it. It can be that your liver is like really kind of sluggish from taking birth control or different things that have happened. So there's always a reason. And again, if we're just kind of like giving you something just to make the symptoms go away, but we're not figuring out why did this happen in the first place, either A, you're going to have to stay on testosterone your entire life because we're not getting to the root of what happened. And B, it's going to start throwing off other hormones and other numbers in the body. And so that's never the kind of first approach to me. It's like, let's get to like, why is this happening? And then work from there.
But that's not like the money focused approach. You know, that's taking time.
It's the long game.
It's the long game. It's taking time. It's actually caring about the person's lifestyle. Like, it's so much more complex than they want it.
Sometimes, and like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, sometimes women are like, I am so overwhelmed in my life right now. My health is not a priority. Like, I am surviving, not thriving right now. And I just need to like sleep at night, you know, get my libido back to save my marriage, which hopefully if that's why your marriage is failing. But like, whatever it is, they're like, episode. I just need symptom resolution right now. And I want to take the hormones for now. And then at the end of the day, you know, when I'm more settled, figure out what's going wrong and how I can get off them and how I can fix what caused this whole issue in the first place. I think that can work, but it's like going in with your eyes open and being offered all of those solutions and then figuring out which works best for you in your life. And most women that I meet with, like, don't want to just band-aid over the symptoms. They understand it's the long game to like get to the root and fix it from there. And that's what most women are seeking. But I don't know if it's like healthcare providers are just assuming like, oh, they just only care about symptom resolution right now, so let's just like start them on hormones, or if they just don't want to take the time to like work with somebody through like getting to the root and fixing it. I don't really know what the problem is there.
I have a question. So I heard a while back that a lot of women are deficient in magnesium, vitamin D, and iron.
Yeah.
Is this true? Like, for the most, I mean, obviously, like, it depends on the person. But, like, I've always been anemic. And I've always, like, when I try to give blood, like, trying to be a good person, a good citizen, and they'd be like, no, your iron's too low. That's how I found out. So it wasn't like a doctor. It was like a fluke. Like, trying to get a ticket to a movie. A free movie theater ticket. And then finding out that my iron's low. And then when I was taking things with iron and trying to focus on, like, eating more iron, I feel like it helped. So what do you think of those?
Iron's a tough one because we actually don't need much iron. We have an iron recycling system that works really, really well. So we need very small amounts of iron. But it's the other nutrients like vitamin C. There's other nutrients that help us utilize that iron that a lot of people are deficient in. And so working on that is really helpful because you can get sort of this issue where then you start taking iron and then you have too much bio-unavailable iron. So it's not that you're deficient, it's just that you're not using what you have. So that can be like, I don't know if I think a lot of people are that deficient in iron, especially people that eat meat. Don't tend to be that deficient. It's usually some of the other cofactors, but magnesium, yes, most people are very deficient in magnesium. If there's like one supplement that I think nearly everyone would benefit, it's magnesium. We use a lot of it when we're stressed. Our food doesn't have as much magnesium as it used to because of nutrient, like soil quality and all of that. Most women benefit from taking magnesium, and form matters because there's 100 types of magnesium. But most people benefit the most from taking magnesium glycinate. That's a bio, like kind of one of the most
That's what you have me taking.
Yeah,
so I'm taking that every night.
And I take that too. It helps with sleep. It helps with relaxation. So yes, most people are pretty deficient in magnesium. And then what was the other one you said?
The D.
The D. Okay. Yes. This is like
Do
a whole
women
topic.
need the D?
Yes. Yes and no. So
vitamin D.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And don't even say to your husband, partner, whatever, like, oh, I need to start taking vitamin D. I got some vitamin D. It's like, we're all living the same life, truly. It's like, it's so embarrassing.
Is it? Because I've been taking that as well.
Yeah.
Does that help?
It can, but you can go overboard with that.
Okay.
And then that can throw up other things. So my suggestion, I mean, especially us, like we live in Florida, like get outside.
Yeah.
There's so many, get outside without sunscreen. That's the other thing. Like, oh my gosh, this could be a whole nother episode, but we're like so fearful of like the sun. And it's like, obviously we've evolved to like need sunlight, and like sunlight is like good for us. It's like not like the devil. Like we need it to live.
What? The sun is not the devil?
So like get your butt outside. There's so many other benefits to getting outside too for like your nervous system.
Oh, I love
and your
being
circadian
outside. My
rhythm.
kids, you probably even saw them when you came in. Like if they weren't running outside naked, like something's wrong. Like they will just go outside, like strip their clothes, and they're like next thing they're in downward dog. You know, just butt naked.
Wow.
So
I don't know if you've seen these wellness trends online, but there are people that talk about sunning your.
I was just talking to my friends about it.
That's what they say.
That's so funny because I was just talking in a group text about this, and my friend was like, "That's so Gwyneth Paltrow."
Yeah.
Like,
did you give it a try?
What did you think? My daughter was doing it. Like I just all of a sudden I looked over and I was like, "What the hell are you doing? Like where did you come from?"
Kids instinctively know how to take care of themselves and their bodies.
But what I do is typically, so tell me if this is right. I don't know. I let them like they're out in the sun for like a solid 20 minutes, and then I'll put some sunscreen on.
Yeah.
Is that? You're like,
it depends.
No.
It depends on like the time of day you're going outside.
Like if it's pretty, like usually if it's like pretty strong.
Yeah.
Like earlier in the day, like they were outside and I didn't put anything on them. Yeah. But like if it's like really strong, they're going to be out for a while.
Yeah. You don't want them to burn. Yeah.
But I give them the first, like 20 minutes to like get the
Love
sun,
that.
and then
And
do the sunscreen.
there's an app that's really helpful. It's called D-Minder. It's a free app, and you put in basically like where you are, your skin type, and it tells you like, okay, you need this much time of sun exposure to get your vitamin D needs for the day. And then after that, if you want to, cover up or go in the shade or, put on like hopefully like a lower toxic like sunscreen, then you can do that. But like making sure you're getting your needs met, because depending on the time of year, the time of day, your specific skin type,
so it might be longer than that you're fine being outside,
right,
and that you don't need to put sunscreen on right away.
Yeah. So that can be a helpful thing to do. And yeah, you do want to avoid burning. That's obviously not a great thing, but making sure you're getting enough healthy sunlight. And then there's also some vitamin D in foods, like fatty fish and that sort of thing too. And then I always recommend people just get a lab test to see where they're at before they start supplementing with vitamin D, because not everybody needs it, especially where we live now. And we're really great at storing vitamin D so that we're, if you're getting enough sunlight kind of throughout the year, just because it's winter and you're spending a little bit more time indoors does not mean you necessarily need vitamin D.
Okay.
So that's not everybody needs it, especially if you're getting outside. I read something once that was talking about this kind of widespread vitamin D exposure is really just a symptom of our disconnection with nature and like being outside. And I think that that's true. That's just how it's kind of showing up in our lives. And there's so many benefits to being outside and getting sunlight in our eyes and training our circadian rhythm and, training our parasympathetic nervous system. I was reading something the other day that was talking about how hearing birds outside is so calming to our nervous system, because in the past, like if there were predators around, the birds would fly away. So if there were birds singing, it means like it's a safe environment. And so like the way that can signal our brain is huge.
I try, especially if I'm working from home. And now that the sun is kind of back, I take at least like 20 to 30 minutes and I just lay out and I have some Zen time and, listen to the birds or whatever. And I feel like I just feel so much better.
Yes.
Like it's like such a stress relief.
Yeah. That's like my midday thing. When I start to like feel like around like, 1, 2, 3, like a little bit down, go outside, get a little sun, maybe take some like minerals, electrolytes, that sort of thing. And like, I find I'm like back
I do tend to have more caffeine, but I'm working on that. I'll make an espresso and go outside, but
it's little things. Yeah. I'm not someone who thinks like coffee is
the devil.
Yeah. Like so many influencers think, but
everyone's quitting coffee now. I'm like, okay, the alcohol I get, but like don't take everything I love.
I know. These people don't want you to have fun. No, they don't want you to have a good life at all.
Like if you see me drinking tea, like you need to call someone because something's wrong.
Adult Protective
I've
Services.
been like
something is like going on here.
Which I know like tea can be good or whatever, but I'm such a coffee drinker. That's like, I've told myself, I'm like, that's the one thing that I want to have for myself. And I don't want to overdo it. I won't do energy drinks.
Yeah.
Cause those like, I feel like there's some shit in there that I don't trust. Like I'm too paranoid. I get too paranoid if I think I already took my vitamins, so I won't take them again. Because I'm like, what if I already took them and I overdose and I die? Like I can't, like I could never be the cool, like I could never like do drugs or anything because I'd just be so scared.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm the same way.
Like
there's a pretty big margin of error for things like supplements. Like you'd be okay.
I know, but I'm just,
I get it.
I overthink all of that.
And I think like a cyclical approach to caffeine can be really helpful too. I mean, that's something I know we talked about, and that's something I do in my own life. There's certain parts in our cycle where, caffeine can be a little bit harder in our system than others.
So let's get into the cyclical thing.
Yes. Oh, my favorite.
This is such a great, I feel like it's going by so fast because I'm just loving talking to you. I could like just have this go on forever. But okay, so with caffeine, we'll start with caffeine.
Yeah.
So I know you and I talked about in the consult, and I noticed this myself because when I started tracking my cycle and tracking my anxiety, I noticed that like the 5 days, which is actually like right now, like 5 days before my period, I have to tone down the caffeine.
Yeah.
Because at that, like, it doesn't really help. It just causes anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of women find that in their luteal phase. So that's the phase between when you ovulate and you get your period. So what we would consider like the premenstrual phase or.
Okay. So that's the luteal phase.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when we tend to be more sensitive to stressors, including caffeine. We tend to be a lot more sensitive. So typically for myself, I switch to decaf in my luteal phase. Or if I do have a coffee, you know, I just make sure that I have it with food. You know, I have it kind of later on in the morning.
I started doing that.
I love that.
Because I used to just be one of the the girlies, like I just have my coffee in the morning. I'm not hungry.
Me too. Oh my gosh. Intermittent fasting. It's like,
No, it's so bad. And then now that I've made it a point to eat, even if it's just a little something with some protein and sustenance, I feel like my stress like through the day is like significantly different now that I've 100%. Done it regularly. And it's just such a simple fix.
Yes, that's the thing. Like if we can just get this information out there, because there are such simple tweaks. Like I think, you know, making people think, oh, you have to give up caffeine is like, it's not cool. No. Like not nice. But we can be like, you can have your caffeine, but like just, you know, have a little snack beforehand, you know, like wait a little bit of time. Just little tweaks so that people can still do the things that they love and not like hate their life. Like I would hate my life if somebody told me, and I tried like to quit caffeine and like, it was just a sad life. I mean, it is.
It is sad.
I
wouldn't even try. Yeah.
I like look forward to it. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go to bed now because I just want to get up and have my cappuccino.
I do that too. I'm like, I'm so excited for my coffee tomorrow.
And I think that's okay if there's things you love, like just love them and don't feel guilty about it. So yeah, but usually in my luteal phase, I'll switch to decaf, and I'm just like more cognizant of, okay, if I am out and I'm going to have a coffee, not everywhere has decaf or whatever. Okay, I'm just gonna make sure I have a snack beforehand because I know I'm a little bit more sensitive. So just being aware of your menstrual cycle and like being able to make a few tweaks like that can have really helpful outcomes. And a lot of women say, you know, I've noticed since doing that I get a lot less crampy. And I even noticed that myself when I initially started doing this. Is like I didn't have cramps anymore. Like I started feeling a lot better. So yeah, simple tweaks like that and just like being aware of the menstrual cycles is really important for us women.
So we have your luteal phase, which is before period, and then during your period is
your menstrual phase.
Your menstrual phase, and then
we have your follicular phase, which is the time between, you know, when your period ends and before you ovulate.
Oh, so that's before ovulating. Okay, I thought that was when you ovulate. I have so much to learn. Yeah. And then what's after?
Ovulatory phase.
Then it's so okay.
And then luteal.
So when is the best time to work? Never.
Well, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of work personally.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. I'm kind of over like, I don't want to, like, I'm not hustling as much as I used to. Like, I just want to be like, can I just be like a Pilates mom and like do the podcast and then like go do, I've never even done Pilates.
Yeah.
But like some, you know, I just want to like the lifestyle. Exactly.
Like, I want that lifestyle.
So when is, if you're going to work, when is the most productive or like when your brain is,
Yeah, your follicular phase. So from the time your period ends, actually most people start feeling about day 3 of their period, they start feeling their energy kind of coming back online.
I feel like that's true.
Yeah. So kind of from that point until you ovulate and kind of just like right after ovulation is when your energy is going to be its highest. So that's when you're going to feel the most outgoing, the most confident. Your testosterone is peaking in this window. So you're feeling confident. Like think about how, you know, men feel like you're feeling like sexy,
like feeling how a man feels every day because he doesn't have to go through a cycle. Like, you get that for 2 days. So you better enjoy it. 48 hours of feeling like a man.
Must be nice. You have those, like, you go through that period and you're like, dang, and they get to feel like this all the time. No wonder. But that's when you'll feel like the most productive. Like you can work longer hours. You are really outgoing. That's a great time to like do a podcast, shoot content, go to networking events, meet new people. You're feeling outgoing. You're feeling sexy. Like you want to do those things. So that's really like your really great window. Like you can work long hours. And then it's not that in your luteal phase and your menstrual phase, like you can't work. I mean, if you don't have to work, don't. But it just, your energy changes. So your luteal phase is your energy is going to be dropping. It's kind of like your inner fall time. Like things are going to be kind of slowing down, dropping. And this is a great time to do behind the scenes work. So to do bookkeeping, you know, progesterone kind of like makes us calm if hormones are like. Oh,
it's a great time for me to not speak to anyone that exists on the planet.
Which is great.
And just be away.
And that's what I did too.
If I didn't have kids, I would just be in my dungeon and just like close the curtains and close my doors and just keep it all dark and just work in silence and not talk to anybody.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's how a lot of women feel, but we're like not allowed to feel that way. We have to perform the same way every day, which is so unfair.
Because the work schedule and everything was created by men who don't have to deal with that.
Exactly. It works for them because every day their hormones are the same every day. Yeah. Their testosterone peaks every morning and then it falls throughout every day. So this like 9 to 5 like works perfect for them. They feel the same every day.
That's
for us,
fucked
no.
up.
Yes.
That makes me mad.
Yeah.
And I'm in my luteal phase right now, so I'm really mad.
Yeah,
I'm really mad.
When we talk about root cause and it's men and the patriarchy, it's true.
The horses.
These schedules, yeah. So in that phase, though, in your luteal phase, like that's a great time to like nothing on the like no no networking events. Like I'm not going to be out and about with people. Like I'm just going to be doing my bookkeeping.
Do you schedule your more admin tasks? Like do you do it that way?
Yeah.
And have you noticed a difference since like really paying attention to it?
And I notice if I schedule things like a networking event and I'm like in my luteal phase, it's not that I can't do it. It's just going to feel so much harder. Like I'm not going to want to do it. And I'm
just
like,
the fact that you know that is so liberating.
Yes.
Because nothing is wrong with you.
You give yourself permission to feel that way.
Before I realized that the anxiety was before my period and before I was really tracking, I was like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And then I feel more anxious because it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then once I connected the dots, I know, okay, I'm going to tone down the caffeine. I'm going to know that things are going to make me a little more stressed and anxious, but it's because of this and I'll be okay. And it's just, and I think it gives you permission. Yeah. And you don't feel crazy.
Yes.
If you're not feeling super social, it's like, well, this is what's going on. So I'm going to know it's going to be a little bit harder to maybe talk to people and socialize, but that's okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the big thing is. Like, I actually know some people who are like against cycle syncing because they're like, oh, it makes women seem like weak. Like we have to like do things in a certain way. And it's like, no, it's just understanding so that we can give ourselves permission and like how we're going to show up on certain days. Like I'm in my luteal phase right now. And that's not typically a time when I would schedule like a podcast appearance, but it's a long story. My cycle got kind of off and whatever. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like, okay, I know that's where I am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quiet morning. I went on like a long walk this morning. I made like a warm, nourishing beverage, like got cozy.
It's tea, isn't it?
It's hot chocolate, bone broth hot chocolate.
Oh, okay. Because you didn't say coffee. So I was like, is she doesn't want me to judge her?
No. Okay. I had coffee this morning. And yeah, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to go home and I like blocked my schedule for a couple hours after this. So I can just do like quiet admin tasks and I don't have any more clients until like 4 p.m. tonight. And so like, that's the thing. It's like, not that, oh, I can't go on a podcast. I'm like in my luteal phase. It's like, okay, I'm just going to be aware of like how I'm probably going to feel and I can anticipate that and like
set yourself up so that it is more calm and not as draining. Yeah.
Right. In a way that works for my body and my energy needs right now. And like and if I need to go home and take a nap, like I'm going to do that shamelessly because I'm going to know like my hormones are really dropping right now. Like everything's pretty low right now. So that's why I feel that way. It's not because I'm lazy or like
that's what the society wants you to feel.
Exactly.
That you're lazy.
Shame. Like, oh my gosh, you can't work, 12 hours a day every day. There's something wrong with you. And it's like, no, this is like literally just how we're built. And it's okay to give into that, and acknowledge that we're different and find a way to build a life around that works for us.
Exactly. So that was your luteal phase. So like the things to do. And then for follicular and ovulatory, that's when you're the most productive. You're going to be like, your brain is probably less foggy. Like I feel like I get brain fog too during PMS pretty bad.
Yeah, you certainly can. And two, like it's going to be worse too if like things are maybe a little bit imbalanced. And when I'm like talking about, oh, this is how you're going to feel in different phases of your cycle, that can be different if your hormones are, following an unpredictable pattern or whatever. But that's kind of like, I guess, how most women feel like if things are kind of balanced in the system. So the way I like to think of it is like when you're looking at your whole cycle, is like menstrual phase is a time to sort of like be quiet, go inward, be with yourself. This is when kind of your intuition is going to be its strongest. This is when you're going to be kind of like thoughtful. This is when I have a lot of epiphanies. This is a great time to look at big picture, like do journaling, like where do I want to go with my business? Like, am I still like on course with that? Like, what are like my big goals? And then your energy starts to pick up a little bit as you move into your follicular. So you hit like day 3 of your period, like things are starting to like come back online hormone wise. This is kind of like our inner springtime. So things are, if menstrual phase is like inner winter, follicular phase is like inner springtime. Things are coming back online. And this is a great time to, okay, all of those thoughts I had during my menstrual phase, like I'm going to put pen to paper. I'm going to start planning out, like, how am I going to organize myself this cycle? What are these goals that I have now? And like, what are the action steps I need to take? Like really like planning it all out. Then when we move into our ovulatory phase, this is like our peak. So this is our inner summer. Everything has peaked at this point. Our hormones are peaking, our energy is peaking, productivity. This is when we execute. So this is when like all those plans we made, okay, this is the time you really start to execute on those, like put in the hours, like get the work done. This is when it's going to feel really great to do that. And then when we move into our luteal phase, everything starts kind of slowing down again. This is our inner fall time. Our energy starts to drop. We start having this desire to go more inward a little bit. And this is when we start tying up loose ends. This is when a lot of women feel like nesting. This is when, like I said, we kind of do like administrative type things, like tasks that don't involve us to be necessarily around a lot of other people, and kind of slow it back down. And then we kind of start the whole cycle all over. So our menstrual cycle is amazing because it has these really like built-in times for pushing forward, pulling back, pushing forward, pulling back, which is something that we often lose sight of when we're just like in society, and like it's always push, and then we never pull back, and then we get burnt out. And I think
especially in a 9 to 5 environment, when you have, you know, all these metrics, and all these goals, and it's constant. And they don't care about that at all.
Right.
No.
And I think that that's changing a little bit. Like I think there's companies that are now providing like unlimited menstrual leave for people that want time off during their period, which is something I'd like to give when I'm a business owner. No, I am a business owner when I like have employees. I already give that to myself because I can.
Hell yeah.
So I think that we are becoming more and more aware of this as a society, and I hope that will just get better over time. But it is hard, and I do have women that tell me like, okay, that's great. Like you can take time off during your.
But I can't.
Yeah. And it's just doing what you can. So knowing that you work 9 to 5, okay, like maybe schedule like your big meetings, if you can during that more follicular and ovulatory phase.
And again, just having the awareness.
Yeah.
Just knowing what's going on with your body is so much help.
Yeah, exactly. Like during my luteal menstrual phase, like I'm not going to make a bunch of plans after work. I'm not going to go to the after work happy hour. Like I'm going to go home, decompress, I'm going to take 10 minutes to take a walk outside on my lunch break, whatever it is. It's like figuring out how you can build that into your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. And I feel like I've worked harder at implementing that, but then I think so much of it was giving myself the permission to not be hustling 24/7. And that's
so hard.
It was the mental shift.
Yeah.
More than anything. It was like, I feel so bad.
Yeah. Guilty.
Doing this. Yeah.
Like I'm so lazy. And the truth of it is, like, if you were just lazy, like I feel like there's so few people that are lazy. If you were really just lazy, you would enjoy just sitting around doing nothing. But a lot of women sit around and do nothing and they feel so guilty about it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't come from a place of laziness. It's like overwhelm and nervous system dysregulation and freeze response. And there's so many different components of it. But like, then we just feel so much shame. Like, God, I'm just such a lazy POS. Like, I just can't, and we don't understand, like, maybe all my hormones are dropping right now. Maybe there's so many facets of it, but we just love to shame ourselves. That's like what society has created. Like it's to a point now where it doesn't have to shame us. Like we just do such a great job of shaming ourselves.
That's true. That's very true.
That's kind of how it takes over.
Yeah.
Patriarchy. Man.
No, exactly. And imagine if men went through periods, we would have like unlimited days off.
Yes.
And if they had the babies, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. And half the world is women. And we experience these things. And
we're the ones repopulating the planet. And yet, we're struggling to after the shortest mat leave.
Yeah.
Right. You have like a couple weeks sometimes. And then you're like right back. It's terrible. Yeah. It's absolutely terrible the way that I feel.
But at least in that couple weeks you get off, you have your GYN follow up and they tell you.
And you check the box if you're sad or not.
Yeah. So you do get some support.
Helpful. Yeah. No. Yeah. All that support. But I'd like to think that, with people like you and at least having access to the knowledge. And I think for any woman who's interested in starting to know what's going on with their bodies, I think just getting an app and starting to track their period is like,
yeah. Best place to start is just figuring out your own body and how do I feel in each phase and what is going on with my cycles, because our cycles are a vital sign for us. They tell us so much about what's going on with our health. And if you're not tracking the data, you may think, yeah, I get my period pretty regular, but then you may come find actually sometimes it's like 25 days and other times it's 35 days, or my cycles are getting a lot shorter over time, or there's a very short time between the time I ovulate and the time my period comes. There's a lot of health indicators we can get from just tracking our cycles and figuring out, putting the pieces together like you did, like, okay, I get these really like anxious feelings, and it's always related to this one part of my cycle. So now I've isolated that, okay, this is related to my cycle. And then I can, figure out, work with somebody or do some research and figure out like what that piece is. But otherwise it's just like, is this from stress? Is this from sleep? Is it from like, you don't really know. So I think that's the best place to start. I love the app. I don't think we're friends on it, but I love the app Stardust. It's a free app. Oh. We should be friends on it because you can see all your friends' cycles and see like if you're like,
so like if you're like being like bitchy to me like via text or something one day, I look at Stardust. I'm like, well, she's on her period. I need to just
exactly just let it go. Or like I'll have friends that'll be like, oh my God, like nothing's working in my business. Like I'm just such a failure. And I'm like, yeah, you're in your luteal phase. This is
that's how I feel
in their
and
luteal
I made
phase.
a rule for myself that has been life-changing is what's your Enneagram? I ask everyone to on the podcast.
I don't know. I've never done it.
You need to do it today.
Everyone tells me that, but I don't know why.
Come on, man. Yeah, so you need to do your Enneagram test.
Okay.
Like ASAP. Okay. Because I want to know.
Okay.
But I'm an 8 and 8s are very like naturally like more aggressive and like I will find conflict. I'm more comfortable with conflict. Like my threshold for conflict is very high. So like I can handle like a lot of uncomfortable conversations. But when I'm PMSing, I made a rule for myself because I noticed I get irritated so much more easily.
Oh yeah.
I don't have hard conversations.
I love that.
During that time because I know that I'm not myself. I'm not leading my most empathetic. I'm not the best leader that I could be. And I'm going to come off more aggressively than I mean to because things are making me more upset than they would.
Yeah.
So I do not have a hard conversation with an employee. I try not to have a hard conversation with like my husband or like I try to be extra patient with my kids because I know I'm going to be more irritated. Yeah. So I'm going to feel more passionately about things that might not really bother me during other times. So I'm like, it's just this time. So I might like, I've like almost sent a text and been like, this is not the time.
Good for you.
To send the text. So like, that's a rule that I've started that I feel like has helped.
That's
just
the
being
power
aware of that.
Yeah. Just knowing where you are in your cycle and how your cycle works. And that's like, if I'm ever like being really hard on myself, like, okay, I suck. Like I'm the worst business owner. Like I just like everything sucks. Like this is just not working out. I'm like, okay, wait. Oh yeah, I'm in my luteal. I'm going to feel that way. And like, it's not that you invalidate yourself and like, oh, none of my feelings matter in my luteal. It's just that you can understand that, okay, I'm under a real negativity bias right now. So I'm going to put these feelings away and maybe re-examine them when I'm feeling a little bit more like myself, like when I've kind of like lost that negativity bias. And I think that there's a point for that because that's really a time for us to kind of scrutinize our life and figure out what is working and what isn't working. And we need to be able to have that time, but that doesn't mean that that's the same time we have to act on it. Yeah. So we can wait. We can see that, and then we can wait to act on that until we feel a little bit more in control.
And just knowing that it's like, because nothing's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like and I get those times where I'm like, oh, I'm so upset, nothing's working. Yeah. And, nothing makes sense, and I should just quit. And it's
like, oh dang,
it's crazy what hormones can do.
Yeah.
To your mood.
Yeah, they rule so much about what we do, and then we like ignore them, and we don't ever learn about them. Like we don't ever learn this like language of the body or our cycles, or there's no one that teaches us about this stuff. It's like such a lost art, I guess. So it's sad.
So how can someone work with you if they want to start learning more about themselves and their hormones, or maybe they're struggling with some things? What's the best way to connect with you, and what are the things that you offer for that?
Yeah. So, you can always on my website, you can schedule like a 15-minute kind of like meet and greet appointment if we haven't met before. And that's just a chance for us to kind of talk about what your goals are, what's going on with you. And if I think I'm the best person to help with that. And I'm always really honest if I don't think that I am, because we don't all know everything. And some people are like, oh, I'm having this, health issue. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not the best person for that, but let me help you find somebody that like maybe a better fit. So I always try to help people with that, but yeah, you can always schedule a 15-minute meet and greet, and that's not a sales call. I always like to emphasize that because I have, you know, wanted to work with people before and they get you on this really high pressure sales call.
Yeah.
And that's such a sick feeling. And I would never put somebody
And I
through
can
that.
attest to that if anyone's listening and wants to work with Jenna. She's the most like just chill, kind. Like she does not make you feel pressured or anything at all. And it just,
Yeah. So if anybody wants to just connect in that way, that's like not a sales call, no obligation kind of thing. And then from there, I can help you figure out, you know, what would it look like to work together? Do we need to just do a one-off visit to, you know, look at some testing you already had done? Do we need to just do a one-off thing where we're ordering a specific functional lab for you and creating a
please
protocol
tell
from
the
there?
audience when the best time is to do hormonal labs.
Okay. Yeah. So typically for most labs, like progesterone, estrogen, that sort of thing, we like to test them 5 to 7 days after you ovulate, and don't go based on your app will always tell you ovulate on day 14. That is not true.
I ovulate earlier.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
I've noticed because I pay attention to the symptoms. So it's I feel like for me it's like day 10 or 11. So you're saying like 5 to 7 days after that, like day 10 or 11.
After you ovulate. Because some people ovulate on day 12 and some people ovulate on day 19, and both can be completely normal. But you want to do it after you ovulate because there's certain hormones like progesterone that we only make after we ovulate. So if we're checking them before ovulation, like when we're on our period, they're going to be really low, and that tells us nothing about how those look when we're actually supposed to have them. So yeah, for most labs, we check them 5 to 7 days after you ovulate.
And you can do the lab order. Like, so if someone wants to get labs through you,
yeah,
I wish I had known that.
Blood testing, urine testing. And there's different things, you know, some people just need basic blood tests. Some people need really in-depth like hormones and metabolites and that sort of thing. So that's always something we can talk about. And then, so I have kind of like smaller packages all the way up to really like, you know, VIP level, really, more intensive packages where we're meeting together every week or two and kind of continuing to tweak and coach you through things that are really getting in your way of carrying out the protocol. But yeah, it's really just a person by person basis. So usually I just have most people start with that 15-minute call so I can get a better idea of what your goals are and then talk about how I may or may not be able to kind of help from there. So my website, you can just DM me on Instagram or TikTok. I do have a TikTok. I always feel embarrassed to say that.
For someone who didn't want to do social media, you have a TikTok. I got to connect with you on there. I've tried to get back into it too.
Yeah,
I'm committed.
I haven't been on there in a while, but I have like on TikTok, I have like 32,000 followers or something.
Oh, damn.
And on Instagram, it's obviously a lot less. So not that,
but that's awesome.
Everything,
but you can still find, you know, probably clients through there.
Yeah, TikTok is not a nice neighborhood. People are not nice on TikTok. So
that's
then
I
stopped showing up on TikTok because I can't take
Were
the
people
heat.
not nice to you?
Yeah.
To you?
Yeah.
If people aren't nice to you, I have no chance.
It's insane. You post the most simple thing. I posted a TikTok video once just about women, you know, are just told that they need to eat less. It was literally a 3-second video. And it's like, women are told that they need to eat less and move more to lose weight. And that's like not always the case. Like that was the whole video, right? It's like, okay, yeah, that's not even controversial. Apparently it's really controversial. It got like, I don't know, 1 million views or something. And I got like
went viral?
Hundreds of like mean comments about like, you're such an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You like just so many like nasty things. And I was like, okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Was it mostly women commenting these things? Were there men commenting?
There were men. It was mostly men saying the mean things and mostly women being like, oh my God, this is the most validating thing I've ever seen in my life.
Isn't that so funny that they love to say how women are drama and women are catty?
Yeah.
When I've noticed some of the trolls, especially with stuff like that, a lot of them are men.
And it's like, this doesn't even have anything to do
Nothing
with you.
to do with you.
Women are told to eat less and move more, and that's often not the case.
I wish you could block a whole demographic on social media.
Oh my God.
I've thought that so many times. I'm like, because I don't want to talk to, I don't need a dude. I don't need Brad telling me that like, I don't look good in the top that I'm wearing. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, you live in your mom's basement.
Right.
I don't care about your opinion.
I
like,
don't
your
need
opinion.
Brad, who works at the grocery store, talking to me about female physiology when I have a master's degree and certifications and all this thing, and then they're trying to mansplain to me how women's hormones works. First
do you
of all,
watch Love Is Blind?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so are you watching season 6?
Yeah.
Did you get? I don't know. Don't spoil it because I might not be as far. But I think it was episode 7 when they're in the Dominican Republic and they're talking
Oh
about birth
my
control.
gosh,
And
yes.
Johnny's like, well, I just thought like women were just like
Every
on the
woman,
pill. And I'm like,
yes.
you? And I'm like going off.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, whoa. Like,
And it's
so
like
upset.
these are the people that vote on policies that have to do with women's bodies, and they don't understand anything about women's bodies or reproduction or how
And he's
that
like,
works.
well, she's not on birth control. So like, I'm not trying to have kids. I'm like, so you're admitting it's fully her responsibility.
Right.
She who is fertile a few days of the month and you're fertile
Yes.
every day of your life.
Yes.
You're expecting her.
It's insane. It's so right. Like that's the thing. Like, right. Women can have like, maximum one baby a year. Men can impregnate hundreds of women a year. And like, we're the ones that have to be in charge of.
It's very disturbing.
Yeah, it is. It's so gross. And like the fact that she was like, I don't want to get on birth control because I don't feel like that's what's best for my body. And he's like, okay, well then, like, this, like, I'm not going to touch you. We're not going to have intimacy, like whatever. It's like, it was so disgusting. I was like, hey, hate him now.
And like vasectomies are so non-invasive and you're like in and out within like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that.
It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we share the same.
Yeah.
We could probably keep going on that one.
Girls rule, boys rule.
Moral of the story. If you didn't listen to anything else, know that fuck the patriarchy.
Yeah.
And girls rule, boys rule.
Yeah, that's it.
But thanks so much for being on here. It was
for
so
having
great to chat with you, per usual. If you guys want to follow along with Jenna, I will share her Instagram and her TikTok as well.
Don't dare me.
And your website. And yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for
you
having
shared
me.
so
This
much
was a
awesome
great
info. This is so
conversation.
great.
I love talking about women.
This is so
to do with
fun.
women.
I know.
Yeah, I love that we
Yeah.
both work with women, and yeah, women are the best.
Women are the best.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.